Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys checking out today's video because we're going to be talking about lipless crankbaits in the early season. Cold water situations, guys, these lipless crankbaits are excellent in the months of February, March, and April. So I've got some good tips that I'm going to pass along to you guys in today's episode. I'm also, guys, in preparation for spring, I just want to invite you to swing by and check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns up on the Fish the Moment website. These are maps I build specifically for Fish the Moment that gives you 40 GPS waypoints that you can put straight into your GPS unit with tips and advice on how to fish each spot. Like I said, I've spent years building these for Fish the Moment, so I'll put the link in the description. We got lakes for or maps for all the lakes across the country, so appreciate you guys checking that out. Okay, let's get into early season lipless crankbait fishing. Now, this is a little bit different than fishing the lipless crankbait in other times of the year because I'm talking about fishing lipless crankbaits when that water temperature is specifically between like 45 and 55 degrees. This is the key depth the key water temperatures for early season lipless crankbait fishing. That requires a different approach. It requires a different type of technique on how you actually fish the bait. So first of all, let me show you the three baits that I prefer with it. Early in the year, I do like the 1/2 ounce size, a little bit smaller one. I don't use a 3/4 ounce. And the three that I use, depending upon what I'm wanting to do, is the Yo-Zuri Rattling Vibe here, the Mega Bass Vibration X, and the Strike King Red Eye Shad. And I'll link all these in the description of the video if you guys would like to pick some up here. Now, how I determine that, each one of these baits is sort of unique. Say, for example, the Red Eye Shad is a pretty light bait, so I don't use the Red Eye Shad if I'm trying to get the bait down, very deep. Say, for example, if I'm wanting to fish a deeper grass bed or slow roll it down a deeper bank, this is not my first choice. The Red Eye Shad would be when those fish are shallower, like in 5 foot of water or less. And a lot of times when that water's in the 50s, those fish will pull up shallow, and you can catch them on the Red Eye Shad pretty good. Now, the other two that I use when I want to get the bait a little bit deeper are the Yo-Zuri Rattling Vibe and the Mega Bass Vibration X. Now, both of these lures, guys, they sink faster than the Red Eye Shad, so these are my choices. Again, like if I'm fishing over some deeper hydrilla or milfoil, or if I'm wanting to slow roll the lipless crankbait, like down into 10 foot of water, so keeping it closer to the bottom. In other words, when I want to keep the bait closer to the bottom, the Rattling Vibe and the Vibration X, and when I want to get it higher to the surface is the Red Eye Shad on there, just the characteristics of the bait. Most of the time I'm fishing it on 12 to 15 pound test Seagar and VizX line and some type of a 7 foot medium action bait cast rod. Okay, now here's the difference in early season lipless crankbait fishing versus the other. It's about the speed of your retrieve. It's like, I don't care if you're fishing the bait shallow or deeper, you're using a slower retrieve and more of a pumping retrieve. So what I do, say for example, I don't care if I'm fishing a grass bed or slow rolling it down a deeper bank, I usually throw it out there and I let the bait hit the bottom. Now this is a big departure from most lipless crankbaits because a lot of lipless crankbait fishing is fast moving it through the water. But I throw it out there, I let it hit the bottom, and then I just slowly start reeling it, and then I want to keep it in contact close to the bottom, so I'll reel it for 5 or 6 cranks, let it fall back to the bottom, and then I might pump it up a little bit, reel it for 5 or 6 cranks, let it float back down to the bottom, and just sort of slow roll it. And I'm trying to keep it touching the bottom or just above the bottom. I'm trying to keep it just off the bottom like that. And in that colder water, especially when the water is in the 45 to 50 degree range, that's the way that I fish it. A slow retrieve, maybe occasional pump it up, just not hopping it, but just sort of pumping it off the bottom, keeping it close to the bottom. Now, your strikes on this are going to be very subtle. It's like when you're fishing a lipless crankbait in cold water and you're barely reeling that, most of the time it just loads up. It's not a hard strike. It gets heavy on there. Now, if the water temperature is closer to, above 50 degrees, like 50 to 55 degrees, I sort of change my approach a little bit. And instead of fishing like the deeper grass beds and those deeper banks, I'll move back up on like the back of some creeks, the back of some flats, back in some coves. And I start fishing a lipless crankbait around shallow targets on the bank. So I'll be working down a bank and, say water temperature is 55 degrees, which is perfect to get good fish up shallow. I'll throw a lipless like the red eye shad around any bank target. I'll throw it next to a lay down tree. I'll throw it to the side of a boat dock. I'll throw it just on a rocky bank, trying to keep that bait in less than 5 foot of water. Now, when I'm doing that and that water temperature is warmer, I'm not fishing the bait close to the bottom. I'm fishing it higher up in the water column. So what I usually like to do, I like to keep the bait in the mid water column. Say, for example, if the screen here, if this is 6 feet, I've got the bait coming through about 3 feet, mid-range with that. And water clarity is one of the things you're going to find out about a lipless crankbait in the early season. You want some stain in your water. This is not going to be a technique that works in clear water very well. So I like to have, so ideally sort of that 2 to 3 foot clarity. It'd be perfect for it. I don't really like to fish it in water much cleaner than 3 feet. And I don't like to fish it in water clarity that's very much below 2 feet. So sort of that, I'm going to guess 15 inches, up to 24 inches is really ideal water clarity for that. Another thing you're going to find out about a lipless in the early season, it works better if you have some type of a wind. And the sky conditions aren't really as important. It's like you can catch them on sunny days or cloudy days, but it really helps if you have a little bit of a breeze, like a 5 to 15 mile an hour wind will really, really help you out a lot. But the main thing, guys, is just adjust your lipless crankbait, the type of lipless crankbait, to the technique that you're fishing. I'd highly suggest getting these 3 here, the Rattle and Vibe, the Vibration X, and the Red Eye Shad. You can do the same thing a little bit with just an old rattle trap. The rattle trap is sort of a slow floater too, so rattle trap or Red Eye Shad is both a really good bait. So anyway, give those tips a try, guys. I think it'll help you catch some good ones, and we'll talk later.